Well, good morning. I'm John. For those of you who don't know me, so glad to be with you today. I have our time that I want to share, and I just wanted to show you this and ask you to tell me what you see in this. This is sort of a test of, your inner self. We're going to find out a lot about you. We're not going to be judging you. What do you see?
You're holding it upside down.
I'm holding it upside down. Maybe you're upside down and everything else is fine. What you see? What else? You just a heart. Okay. Ocean waves. What's that? The sun.
Sailboats.
What's that?
Sailboats.
Sailboat. Yes, maybe. Possibilities. Well, what you're seeing here is Van Gogh's ear. That's where it went. But I love this painting, and I love the idea of Impressionist art, because obviously it was made with all these little marks, right? And when we're here, it's really hard to see what's going on. It just looks like a mess. So we need to step back and get some perspective, right? We need to be able to have some distance from it. And there are often times in our lives when what we are going through in the moment seems like a complete mess, and there's no sense to it. It just seems very random. And then we get some time and we get some space, and that is how we live. We live by moving through time and space. And then we can step back and see, okay, that was what was happening. That's what the artwork was being created. That was the masterpiece that looked like a mess at the time. So I just want to encourage all of you, when you are in the middle of something, when you are right in front of it, relax and realize that time will show you things you can't see now. So the music's been wonderful today. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate you. So I have been struggling all week about how to approach this message. Should I be optimistic or should I be honest? Do I come here and try to give some Super Bowl halftime locker room dramatic movie, third act, Avengers Assemble, save the world pep talk? Or do I tell you exactly how I feel? Should I dig into my trusty bag of platitudes, encouragements, and inspirational quotes, or do I formally begin my career as a demotivational speaker? Well, how about I just sit with you in this historic mess, and we see what kind of hope that we can mine together. Because it's rare in life that we can say we are in unprecedented times, but here we are. This is a pivot point moment for our nation and really for the world. And despite how we're processing it, or how we feel about it, or the other places we might prefer to be, we're here. And right now, in this moment, I asked you to think about the questions, because we can all probably admit to having a lot more questions than answers right now. Questions like these. How do we hold the grief of all the dreams that felt like they died a week and a half ago? The plans we'd made for ourselves, for our families, for this nation. How do we tear up the script that we were supposed to be living right now of joyous celebrations and historic wins and wide open possibility? And how do we write a new one that we actually feel we can survive in, let alone thrive in? How do we attend to the tens of millions of already vulnerable, oppressed, and marginalized people here, who in a matter of months will be a target of a movement of exclusion and hatred with more power than it has had in decades? How do we go back to anything resembling normal, knowing how many people we know and love and work and study and live alongside have tripled down on bigotry and lawlessness, how do we mourn in their midst, knowing that they are euphoric, at least for the moment? How do we decide if we can still call this place our home while feeling orphaned by its collective decision? How do we as parents or grandparents responsibly care for our children and grandchildren? Do we stay and fight and somehow try to mitigate the damage to this nation, or do we, with the limited time we have, abandon a place that feels like it has abandoned us? Do we live our lives, the rest of them, in a culture that better aligns with our hearts? And for this community, how do we as people of faith make any sense of our present circumstances while trying to hold on to hope of belief in a higher power whose character is good and who is defined by love? I mean, can we still believe that love wins the war when it has certainly lost a critical battle here? So standing, or perhaps lying in a fetal position at the intersection of existential, constitutional, emotional, and relational crises, any of which on their own could level us, how do we decide where to go or how to move on? And I guess above all of that, friends, what do we do when, despite our age and wisdom and intellect and competency and experience, we are left with a single answer to every one of those questions? I don't know. Do you know? Because I don't know, and yet people often expect me to know. You sitting here, maybe some of you folks online. And people really don't like it when I don't know. A few days ago, a reader sent me a message, and she began saying by how much she loves my books and writings. And she said, I always share your posts, prefacing them by saying, he speaks my heart, and you do. I knew something was coming. It felt too nice and too good. She said, but we need you to offer hope right now. We need you to righteously stand as the backbone of resistance. She closed by saying, we need voices to speak right now, and your voice is needed. And I understood what she was saying. But I wanted to reply, this is my voice right now. This angry voice, this grieving voice, this devastated voice, this uncertain voice, this is mine, so this is what you're going to get. And I think that's our collective challenge. Has nothing to do with people who you read online. We all need to allow people to be exactly where they are, and let ourselves be exactly where we are. To not make people feel they're too depressed or too hopeless or too angry or too calm or too optimistic, because we are all doing the best that we can do. This is a time of grief, and as we've often said, there is no wrong way to grieve. Whatever way you're doing this, perfect. You're doing it right. And it's okay to not know what to do right now. Because I sure don't know, and to pretend otherwise would be dishonest. It wouldn't be fair to you, and so I come here in the not knowing with all of you. And when we get together with good people in the not knowing, that's where beautiful things begin to reemerge. When we look at each other's faces and we know that people here have hearts that echo ours. And so I'm here today to affirm your fear, to amen your rage, to co-sign your disbelief, and to validate your mourning, and to tell you that I'm still here with you. And I hope that helps you, but it also helps me to know that you're still here. They say that misery loves company. I don't believe that misery loves company, but it does crave community. We need to be together and to feel all of this alongside people whose empathy still allows them to feel. People who have been paying attention, people who understand this isn't just a political victory, This isn't just about 4 years of something that will resemble anything normal and then we can just be over with it. And we need to be around people who are wounded and angry, because that means we are around people whose empathy still works. And we need to be around a place where compassion is not over. And our hearts are aligned this moment with all the questions. I was talking to a dear friend last week, and she said to me, the last 100 days gave me something that I'd given up on. They gave me hope. And she was angry about it. She said, instead of spending the past 3 months mentally and practically preparing myself for the horrible things I'd previously resigned myself to, I ended up getting fooled into believing again in my country and what could be possible. And she said, that's what hurts the most. She felt like she had gotten distracted by hope only to have it snatched away in a few hours. And there is an emotional whiplash to it all. From stratospheric highs to seemingly bottomless lows in a period of time that should not happen. And that's probably the heart of this for so many of us. Over 100 days, we went from a place of certain dread, of resignation, to a posture of possibility. Maybe even an expectation of love's victory. We had anticipatory joy. And now we feel like that's all been wasted time. Someone actually said that to me yesterday. He said, I don't want to say this, but I feel like all this has been wasted. I don't believe the last 100 days have been wasted at all. I believe they reminded me just what the hell I live for. And because that's the only place we begin today. That is the spot where we stand. We start today with 2 questions. The first question is, despite how dark or hopeless things feel, what do I still know to be true? Now, you may have fewer answers to that question than you might have had 10 days ago. And it may not seem like there's much right now, but ask yourself, what do I still know to be true? What do I still know to be true about what matters to me? My values. Do I still believe empathy is the better path? Do I still believe diversity makes us better? Do I still believe that equity is worth fighting for? What do I still know to be true about the kind of world I'd like to spend the rest of my days building, my dreams? When I think of the future, even a few days into it, what would that place look like? And how might I step slowly back into that dream or create a new one? What do I still know to be true about the kind of people I want to surround myself with? My community, whether by blood or by choice, do I still want to be around people who care too much as opposed to people who care too little? Because even though there's so much you don't know right now, you actually know quite a bit. Your values, your dreams, and your desire for community are still likely pretty clear to you today. So the first question in matter of values or vision or relationships is, what do I still know to be true? The second question is my heart still beating? That may be broken and bleeding and crushed beneath all the what might have beens and all the worst case scenarios, but is it still beating? Because if it is, and if it isn't, we're in real trouble here. We need to call the proper physicians. But if your heart is still beating and you are still breathing, then you still have work to do and a life to live and decisions to make and options in front of you. And that doesn't mean the way forward is easy or clear. It just means there is a way forward because time is still ticking and so is your heart. Yesterday, I went to an old trusted friend for advice on what I was going to share with you. I went to me 10 days ago. I'm a little jealous of that guy because the me of 10 days ago, he was a lot more hopeful and rested. He looked a year younger than I look today just 10 days ago. But that guy wrote these words on election day and shared them with the world just a few hours before the polls closed. And I wanted to share them with you. This is what that guy said. Well, we're finally here. After all the work and worrying, predicting and waiting, we've reached this day, one that will change so many things around us. I'm pretty much physically and emotionally exhausted, I thought, as I know many of you are, but it's the good kind of tired. The sweet fatigue from knowing you were working for something beautiful and believe in and want to see it continue. It's the feeling of knowing you left it all out on the field, that you did all you knew to do, that you have spent yourself in the name of something you treasure. Like you, I've spent countless hours trying to read the tea leaves of thousands of polls and the words of pundits, to sift the anecdotal evidence of social media testimonies, to divine from rally sizes and volunteer engagement just how this is going to play out. That in itself has been wearying, trying to visualize the future without the capacity or qualifications to do so. Today, I won't speculate on what will happen over the next few days. I'll simply feel the gratitude of what I've witnessed over the last 100 days. The coming together of so many disparate groups of people. The courage of brave human beings stepping into the fray and declaring who they are. The massive embracing of a message constructed on joy and love for neighbor. I'll remember people crossing lines of political tribalism and religious boundaries to create a greater community for the common good. I'll give thanks for seeing the very best of what humanity can do when it is aligned for a purpose that transcends all the superficial demarcations and delineations we usually imagine are important. I hope we get to have that reflected in the results of the election, that the votes of the people certify that we are collectively waking up to what is possible if we aspire to our better angels and not our demon fears. But I know that either way, I have seen America over the past 3 months, the kind of America I know we could be, the America that is worthy of its initial declarations and its soaring anthems. I've seen a movement of hope burning away the old vitriol. I've seen young people finding their voices and sensing their urgency. I've seen men dismantling patriarchy and rallying around a strong woman. I've seen women focusing their righteous rage into a fierce wave of unprecedented power. I have seen America leaning toward a better version of itself, and right now, that's what sustains me and steadies me. Over the coming days, we'll carry one another, and hopefully soon we'll celebrate together. But for now, I'll rejoice in what I've already seen and felt and experienced over the last 100 days. It's been glorious, unthinkable, miraculous. That's what he wrote. So was that guy wrong, is the question I've been asking today. Was that guy an idiot who wasted 100 days throwing himself into a movement of unity and kindness when he could have been preemptively grieving or emotionally preparing or looking for a visa to Costa Rica? Were you? Was that guy foolish for dancing with his teenage son surrounded by thousands of diverse human beings in a rally where hope and joy were palpable? Was that guy naive for knocking on doors of hundreds of strangers and talking with them about the kind of nation we seemed ready to build together? Was that guy stupid for hugging a stranger, an elderly woman of color in the grocery store checkout line who thanked him for wearing a candidate's t-shirt and said she thinks good things are coming? I don't believe he was any of those things. He wasn't idiotic or foolish or naive or stupid, and I don't believe any of you were for daring to believe all that you've believed and worked for and dreamt about and whatever you still believe, because no act of love is ever wasted. You weren't wrong about any of that. You may have been wrong about more people than you wanted to be wrong about. You may have been wrong about this nation's collective readiness to embrace a woman of color as its leader. And you may have been wrong about the speed at which change is coming, but you were not wrong for hoping and fighting for them then or for grieving now. Because the right and the good thing is still the right and good thing, even when that thing is not popular or in the winning column. So you are still someone who wants to leverage their life for the good and right things. See, when you don't know what to do, you begin with who you are. You start with the grief. You begin with the burden. You sit with the sorrow and the despair and the anger until you find the smallest place to move and the closest spot you have access to. Because you weren't wrong or foolish or stupid for what you worked for and imagined over the past 100 days. And right now it feels like everything is out of control, but you are not out of control. You have control of you in this moment. A few years ago, I spoke here following the 2016 election. I was going to just give the same message. But at the time, I said that I liked that my wife at the time would call me a pessimist, but I said I like to be prepared for the worst case scenario. I said, when it all hits the fan, I want to be wearing a poncho. But the truth is, we're never really prepared for the worst case scenario. We are never fully ready when it all hits the fan, because when it hits the fan, it never feels like we thought it was going to feel. So we could have spent the last 100 days dreading how we were going to feel, and it wouldn't have mattered. It would have been wasted energy. We're here, and we don't know what to do. I think at times like this, we need to wait out the things that feel out of our control and begin to settle with the things we have control over. We know that death in the world cannot be stopped. We know that a terminated job can't just be reclaimed. A terrible diagnosis cannot be given back. An election cannot be overturned. But there are times when you simply have to let the moment come and do to you and in you what it will do. Receive the mess and allow the initial force to inflict the damage that cannot be prevented. There's a difference in feeling out of control and freaking out, and feeling out of control and realizing that's temporary. So today we look for the cracks we see in the world and we try to fill them. We look at the splits in the bedrock as opportunities to move or to grow or to change. We look for this time to be the kind of person that the world needs, because the world needs that person now more than ever. If the world feels devoid of compassion, practice it. If equality is not welcome, find a way to affirm all life where you are. If too many people are being silent, you be good and loud. So I asked you what you still know to be true, and I asked you if you're still alive. I have one more question for you. Why did you work and dream and canvass and support and vote the way you did? Why? Because whatever propelled you into the voting booth needs to push you out on your feet today, and me today. We're surrounded by systemic ills and relational fracture and national discord. We've seen all these grotesque realities uncovered. We're walking shoulder to shoulder with weary, wounded human beings who are looking for compassionate people to see their suffering and move toward them. And we all have a specific front row seat to a place that is filled with terrors and traumas, and you are the only one with your unprecedented ability to be what that small world needs. So I would argue that your why has not changed, friends. We're all just going to discover the what and the how again. So in the meantime, when you don't know what to do, just remember who you are. And I'm grateful for who you are. because who you are has altered this place beautifully, and it's going to keep doing that. There's no political result that is going to alter that. Anything you'd like to share? Anything you're feeling? You want to state something you know to be true still for you? Friends there, anything that you wanted to share? Any reflections? I will tell you, everyone there virtually, it's heartening to see you all, to know that you're with us, to know that we are separated by geography, but that's it. Got anybody Joe wants to share? Sal.
Your pitch perfect.
Pitch, what's that?
Your pitch perfect.
Oh, well, thank you. This is all for me as much as it is for you.
I feel like I'm continuing to get pummeled. You know, it's just like an ongoing thing, and it just seems like it's getting worse.
So feeling as though getting pummeled, and yes, and that will continue, and part of what the wisdom will be is to reconcile yourself that the flood of bad news is going to come simply by our reality, but that we have to somehow limit our exposure to that bad news to make sure that we are stepping away from it, because part of that is going to be by design, to demoralize, to strike fear in us. And so we have to be controlled in the way we absorb the news, and to realize that as bad as it looks, we still will have some agency, and we will have a way that we can work. And someone has said, you know, to not obey in advance. And I think it's about the posture that we take all this news with. Bring that news, let me see it, and then let me respond. I think we shared Viktor Frankl's quote a few weeks ago. We live in a space between stimulus and response. And in that space is our ability to choose. So we're going to get bad stimulus, but we still have an ability to respond. So that's all that we can focus on. Yes.
I was just going to say, one way to think about it is we have to be just gird ourselves or prepare ourselves to help those who are even less, capable of defending themselves when this situation gets worse. Because, a lot of us may be okay, just depressed, but, there are going to be people who are really going to be suffering.
Yes, and we have, all of us, due to the fact that we're here, we have quite a bit of privilege, and many of us can be shielded by the worst of this. And so it's difficult because we're also tired. So I wouldn't want to disrespect your fatigue by saying you got to get ready to help the people who have less than you, but that is the simple reality of what it means to live in community and be a person of empathy. So I would say to you, look at a marginalized or vulnerable community that you have a specific heart for, and do something tangible for that community. You can't help everybody who's going to be under duress. So if your heart is for LGBTQ teens, find a way to work that out where you are. If your heart is for immigrants right now, do something where you can let those people know that you're with them. So be strategic and small and focused in your response to that trauma. We have someone.
Kathy. Go ahead, Kathy.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Kathy, you're up. Kathy is in Hawaii, so let's all just look at her with disdain today.
Aloha. Wouldn't miss this, John. And you have no idea what hope you've given me over the years. And I wrote in the chat room that something that I share with people is about when they've lost someone. It's about grief. And grief never ends, but it changes. Grief is a passage. It's not a place to stay. Grief is not a sign of weakness, nor is it a lack of faith. Grief is the price of love. And you have taught us love, John. You've taught us empathy. You've brought us all together. And those last 100 days, they weren't wasted. It's brought us together. There's millions of us, millions of us. We still have heart. And we know that this wasn't fixed so good, we would never have to vote again. We just haven't gotten to the bottom of it yet. But we haven't lost each other. And it's because of your voice, John. Honestly, you have got me and so many other people through all of this. And here we are all gathered. There's power in this. There's power in our voices. And we do have empathy and we do have love. And we will absolutely come together. This isn't over. And thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you.
Go ahead, Sue.
Thank you. Hopefully you guys can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, to follow that, I struggle with trying to explain, particularly to my children, that some of the guardrails that I've relied on in the past don't seem to be there. And I think you all know what I mean, like the Supreme Court and the DOJ. So I go back and forth. Do I remain optimistic? Do I try to be honest with them, or do I try to shield them? That's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. And so many of us are there. You know, there is a public and private version of ourselves. There simply is. And there are times when we have to deliver a message that may not be what we're actually experiencing or believing, but we're trying to figure out how to not just help ourselves, but help the person in front of us. And that wrestling is going to continue. So the best thing you can do, Sue, is to be honest and say, I don't even know what to tell you right now, or here's where my conflicted emotions are, because very likely the person hearing you is in the same place. You know, we can have fierce love for where we are and be terrified and hope that we could be somewhere else. That is going to continue to happen. We're just with you, Sue. Thank you.
Go ahead, Elaine. That's your muted.
I just want to tell John how much I appreciate. I've been following you for so long. I never subscribed until the first post you did after the election. And I just want to share with everybody, there is a plan that we can do. And it's based on the wise words of two great people in history. One, Aristotle, who said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an art, but a habit. And the other is Martin Luther King, who said, the people who want peace need to learn to become as organized as those who want war. So those of us who want peace in the world, we need an organized plan. And together, we can overpower the negativity that seemed to outvote us by just 1 or 2 votes 10 days ago.
Thank you, Elaine. And that's the thing. Many of us are tired, but like I said, if we get to rest and get over the shock, then we get about the work that we were doing before any of this began.
I have a feeling that the us versus them remains strong and is, in fact, maybe stronger. And it's strong for us as well as strong for them. And I think that's something that we really should focus on, that this us versus them is not the right way.
So yeah, the us versus them dynamic, and unfortunately, the posture of one party group of people in this recent election, one party was saying, we're all together in this. The other one was saying, half of you are enemies. And unfortunately, that was the side that won the day. But what my hope is that when the reality starts to unfold about the nation that we're going to experience politically, many of the people who thought we were them are going to realize we're the us. We're all that we have been trying to work. The thing I have tried to say over and over again is I want people across from me to know that I'm for them, and I've been fighting this malevolent thing that I think is predatory toward their family as much as mine. And I think as people experience that reality, hopefully they will say, maybe I was wrong about this vitriol and embrace something, but we have to, that's a whole other, if we had time, we could go into that. I'm not going to place on anybody's plate right now. Go reach out to the other side. Right now, it's just about, Thanksgiving's coming. So enjoy that. Let's
ahead,
do one
Alyssa.
more, and then we'll do one more here. I know I don't want to keep people waiting too long. Who do we have, Joe?
Go ahead, Alyssa.
This is fun.
Hi, it's Elisa. I don't know why my camera's not working. Can you guys hear me though?
We can.
Okay. So I was at the car dealer the day after the election and getting an oil change because it was free. And there were 15 or 20 of us of all races, creeds, age, and they had on, luckily not Fox News, they had on ABC. Because if they had on Fox News, I would have had to go and ask them to change it. But at one point, everybody was quiet, doing their own thing. And at one point I sighed, and a man across from me, I'm 66 and a white female. So, I don't have any immediate, they're not coming for me right now, but I can do other things. But this man, he was blue collar, and he said, to everybody, but also to me, what can we do? And miraculously, all of us started talking about what we could do and the small things that we could do. My thing that I can do is 40 years ago, I had a bilingual job. I spoke Spanish, and I've just gotten lazy. So 14 days ago, I re-enrolled in Spanish classes so that I could speak to people that are marginalized in a way that they could understand, and maybe help them to understand, or help the other side, quote unquote, to understand them better. And the other thing I think that we all need to keep, besides community, is to really resist the I told you so's. It's really hard, but when they come back, because they're going to, the people that thought we were the enemy, not all of them, but a lot of them are going to come back and go, oh my God, what did we do? And that's when we have to remember in our faith and in our community and in our love to say to them, okay, come to us and we will help you get through this. We will not say I told you so, even if we want to. And I know it's really hard, but it was just so heartening to have this group of people. And I walked out of the car dealership with 3 phone numbers of people that are like-minded in the area that we can, and my neighbors, she said to me the other day, what can we do? And I was like, we need to just band together. We need to get people from across the street who are like-minded, and we need to just continue to form fellowship. And she was like, no, you're right. But yeah, it was just really heartening to see these people, and nobody was crabby. There were people that didn't say anything. That was okay, but they didn't go off on us, because everybody spoke there wasn't any vitriol. It was just, what can we do? And that was really, it was encouraging. It was really encouraging.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
2 in the house, and then we'll wrap up.
John, I think that what we need to realize is that what the group here, and maybe most of the group that is feeling so burdened now, we are really the privileged ones. We have let the gap between rich and poor get wider and wider and wider. This didn't happen overnight. It happened back when Reagan did something. And then Bill Clinton did something else that also encouraged it. And now we have people who maybe didn't say anything, but they voted. and they voted out of frustration. We need to focus on that.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of the postmortem kind of looking at everything and trying to discern the patterns and the things that were there. Thank you for that.
What resonates with me is something you said in a sermon some months ago, which basically is, no matter what happens, we are all in this together. No matter which side of the aisle we vote on, we are all in this together.
Yeah, and I told people a few months ago, I said, listen, no matter what happens, we're going to be here. You're going to be on the ground doing this amazing work, and I'm going to be cheering you on from Portugal, and it's going to be great. So listen, thank you, friends, and thanks to everyone who's joined us today. And remember, what do you still know to be true, and is your heart still beating? And that's where we begin. Let's sing our closing hymn, which is number
1057, Good Lifted Up. Usually lifted.
Together we have enjoyed the warmth and beauty of stories of this flame and of this special community. As our chalice flame is extinguished this morning, we can still remember that its glow is carried within us. We can use our inner lights and this flame to kindle new sparks throughout our lives and in the world. May the spirit of peace and togetherness bless your lives. Please join me in reciting our Peace Fellowship blessing. Bless us with hope, bless us with care, bless us with love, bless all we share. Blessed be, Amen, Shalom, Salam, Namaste, Ashe.